Hey there, it's John from Heroes and Legends. Welcome to day 2 of official Commander 2016 previews. Now, if you joined us yesterday, we saw about 12 cards from the new set. Today we'll see actually a little more than that. And this is an incredible product. I mentioned this yesterday, but maybe one of my favorite products that's released every year. I love the fact that you can just go pick up one of these decks with a friend and play a game, and it's not as simple as other pre-constructed decks, like maybe the dual decks, and there's some complicated things going on in these commander decks. Last year's product knocked it out of the park. I thought they did an amazing job. This year looks incredible so far as well with the 4 color combinations. I'm really excited to see these actual deck lists later in the week, hopefully. So having said that, before we get started, just a quick reminder, if you check out the description below, you're going to see a link to our Amazon affiliate store. And if you make any purchases through any of those links, a small percentage will come back to help support the channel. That's always appreciated. And I do have some other links that will go directly to Commander 2016 products. And as more of these links are added, I'll also add them to the store. So if you're looking just to go to Commander stuff, those links are there in the description too. Having said that, let's get into the new cards for today. And we're going to start off with some basic lands. Now, usually when I kind of show basic lands for a new card set, it's nothing super exciting. But these are special. Let's take a look at them. We're going to start off with a cycle of basic lands here. They're all by the same artist. It's Rebecca Guay. Now, if you're familiar with her work, she did a lot of work for Magic, kind of like in the middle of Magic's lifespan. She did some older stuff, but really, I don't think she's done anything recently that I can think of off the top of my head, but she's done a lot of work over the years for Magic. So bringing her back to do basic lands, I think is an awesome idea. And you're going to see in just a moment, there's 2 other artists they're doing the same thing with. They brought them back to the basic lands. These things look incredible. Amazing work here. I mean, the swamp looks incredible. The island, I love these. I love this idea of bringing folks back from Magic's past and having them do something like this. What a phenomenal idea. And I know this is maybe, because it is basic lands, will feel like a little bit of a footnote or side story to the new cards being released. But what an awesome thing to do. And I hope they continue to do this type of thing in the future. Let's look at our next artist. Now, this is Mark Poole. Now, Mark is somebody who really hasn't done anything, at least that I can think of, in a very long time. When I think of Mark Poole, I think of the beginning of Magic. He did cards like Ancestral Recall, Tropical Island. He's done a lot of stuff, Counterspell, but even aside from Alpha Beta Unlimited, he did stick around with the game for quite some time. You see a lot of his work also in Time Spiral. However, I think a lot of that is mostly callbacks to some of his older stuff, like Ancestral Visions, for example. He did that one. He did Cancel because he did Counterspell, that type of thing. So other than that, he hasn't done anything super recent, but his art is incredible. His art style looks a little bit different here than it did in the old days of Magic, but of course he's doing landscapes here, which I'm sure are a little different than some of the other things he did, and I think also his work's evolved over time. But this is probably my favorite cycle. I mean, this looks amazing. I like what he's done with the sky and all of these. I think that's what's really eye-catching when you look at the plains or the mountain and you just look at the sky in the background, or even the forest. It just looks incredible. So phenomenal that they got Mark Poole to do these. Now, our last artist is Kev Walker. Now, Kev actually does more recent stuff. You can find Kev Walker art in Standard. Not a whole ton of it, but he does cards here and there, and he sticks around, and he has stuck around for a really long time. His art really dates back pretty much to not quite the beginning of Magic, but way back there. And he's just kind of always been there throughout the history of the game, so it's really cool that he got to do a cycle as well. And again, incredible looking. I love the plains, the mountain here especially. Just look really phenomenal. It makes me sad that these couldn't be like full art lands. But I realized that if they did that, the world would explode, because they'd have these amazing full art lands in this product, and they'd fly off the shelves and people would try to flip them, and it's just sad we can't have nice things. So that's just kind of is what it is, I suppose. But if you can't have full art lands, next best thing is just having incredible artists coming back from the history of Magic to do cycles like this. Awesome stuff. Kudos to Wizards. This is a home run in my opinion. Let's move on to the actual cards of the set now. First, we have Selfless Squire. Costs a white and 3 human soldier with flash. It's a 1/1. When this enters the battlefield, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you this turn. Whenever damage that would be dealt to you is prevented, put that many +1/+1 counters on Selfless Squire. This is actually a really cool combat trick. So your opponent's going in with a big attack on you. Just go ahead and take all the damage, flash this into play. Hopefully they don't have a counterspell, and as long as this hits the battlefield, you are going to be in a real good position, right? You're absorbed all that damage, you have a big creature in play now. Really cool idea, great combat trick. Next we have Coastal Breach, a blue and 6. This is a sorcery. It has Undaunted. We talked about that a lot yesterday, so I won't go into a lot of detail, but it's pretty self-explanatory. Return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. That's actually awesome. I love this effect. This Undaunted mechanic is an incredible idea. It takes cards and makes them actually very powerful in multiplayer situations, especially early on when you have a lot of players still in the game. And later in the game, okay, they're not as powerful anymore, but it doesn't matter as much because you have the extra mana, hopefully, that you can pay into these things if you need to. This is a fantastic panic button. This type of effect is great in Commander because it deals with +1/+1 generation decks. It deals with token strategies. Deals with a lot of things very nicely. It's nice to have just answer that type of thing in general in your deck, and this is a fantastic answer. And again, Undaunted makes it so that they can put a powerful card like that in here, but it doesn't translate very well to a single player game like Vintage or Legacy, which means that there won't be some sort of crazy situation in the economy of the set by having a powerful card in one particular deck or something like that. Great job, fantastic mechanic here. Next we have Cruel Entertainment. A black and 6, it's a sorcery. Choose target player and another target player. The first player controls the second player during the second player's next turn, and the second player controls the first player during the first player's next turn. Alright, so first off, the card's called Cruel Entertainment. Like, come on now, that's amazing. Secondly, the art is incredible. Thirdly, this is too funny. I mean, you can do a couple things with this card. Obviously, you could play it on 2 people and just kind of watch what happens. It could backfire. I mean, they both could kind of team up against you and just attack you. I don't know. But 2 people could really mess with each other. It could be quite funny to kind of just see what's going to happen. It's just an interesting social experiment. I mean, the other thing you do with this card is you could cast it on yourself and someone else, steal their turn and decimate their board state to the point where they're not going to be much of a threat to you. That's possible too in certain situations. That's probably a more spiky way to look at this card. But yeah, this is amazing for so many reasons, just on so many levels. Great card. I assume this is probably part of that Chaos deck, I would think. Charging Cinderhorn. This costs a red and 3, elemental ox, 4/2 with haste. At the beginning of each player's end step, if no creatures attack this turn, put a fury counter on Charging Cinderhorn. Then, Charging Cinderhorn deals damage equal to the number of fury counters on it to that player. I like this. This is all about causing action. It's about making action so that you're not sitting around just developing your board state all the time. This only costs 4. You can get it out pretty early in the game. It's really going to encourage your opponents to start attacking and start doing something. If you have a nice defense, they might not be able to attack you real well, so they might have to start attacking each other so they don't take the extra damage. That seems kind of awesome. And this has haste, so if you want to just get in with damage of your own, you can do that very quickly with this card. We saw this a lot in Conspiracy Take the Crown, where they tried to develop a multiplayer situation where a lot of cards that are going to hopefully create action and reduce long, drawn-out board states. They're doing the same thing here. Great idea. I assume this is going to be part of the aggressive deck, but this could find itself maybe into a couple builds even, but really cool idea. Glad that they're following that theme from Conspiracy here, because you could pick up 1 or 2 of these decks, or 3 or 4, and play with your friends, and you might not have some of the ultra powerful cards available to stick in those decks, so you need something to make sure you don't just have long, drawn out, really gummy board states. Next we have Primeval Protector, and this costs a green and 10. It's an avatar, 10/10. This will cost 1 less, though, to cast for each creature your opponents control. And when this enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. This is another card that is going to be really good in the mid to late game. It's not going to be super hard to cast. It's a 10/10. Sure, it doesn't have evasion, but you know what? Once you start talking 10/10, it doesn't matter anymore. It's an amazing blocker. It's going to stop people from attacking you with ground creatures. If you want to attack in, your opponent's going to basically have to chump block this thing. It's going to do damage some way, shape, or form. Plus, it comes in with an Anthem effect, which is actually a +1/+1 counter Anthem effect, which is fantastic, and that will work very well with other +1/+1 counters matters cards, which we're going to see one coming up real shortly, so I'm sure they're in the same deck together. Really like this idea. I kind of wonder if this is a cycle. Well, I guess we'll wait and see, but this is pretty cool, and the art also looks amazing. We have a commander. This is Breya Etherium Shaper, and she costs a red, a black, a blue, and a white legendary artifact creature human 4/4. And when Breya Etherium Shaper enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying. Then you can pay 2 and sacrifice 2 artifacts to choose one of these effects. She deals 3 damage to target player, or target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn, or you gain 5 life. Alright, so the first thing that kind of jumped to my mind when I saw her was she kind of feels like a Jitte with legs, kind of, right? Like, she's a living Jitte, and that's kind of cool. I mean, those effects that let you kind of choose the ability are always powerful. Like, it just gives you versatility. And this time around, you can do 3 damage to a player. You can kill a creature with toughness 4 or less, or at least reduce the size of a creature, or you can gain 5 life. And that second ability makes combat very difficult. If you ever played against Jitte, you kind of know that. I mean, what makes her not broken is the fact that you do have to compromise board state to get these effects to trigger. So you do have to have some artifacts to sacrifice. So hopefully you have ways to generate Thopters or some sort of token generation that's an artifact that makes that easier, right? I'm sure there will be more stuff that we'll see later on. Where Jitte was really kind of crazy broken because just attacking in with Jitte gave it the counters, then you could just kind of use all your counters at once and just kind of go off. This is going to act a little bit slower than that, but it still seems very powerful to me. So also it's a 4/4 creature, which sometimes can just get in and rumble if you need to. Not a bad size for the creature. She should stay alive relatively well too. So really cool. I like to see how she's going to interact with her deck and what other cards are going to be there to support her. Next we have Rayhan, Last of the Abzan. Costs a green, a black, and 1 legendary creature, human warrior. When this enters the battlefield, it will come in with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever a creature you control dies or is put into the command zone, if it had 1 or more +1/+1 counters on it, you may put that many +1/+1 counters on target creature, and this has partner. We talked a lot about partner yesterday, so again, I won't go into the gory details about that, but if you'd like to hear my thoughts on it or get more details, definitely check out yesterday's video. But specifically this card, I love these partner cards that, I mean, cost 3 or 4, and they basically come in with these not always super game-changing abilities, but nice abilities that are going to give you some benefit and are really great early in the game if you can play this on like turn 3 or something. This one feels a little more powerful than many of the others that we've seen, though, because this one, if you have the counters to back this up, every time your creatures die, the counters are just moving on to the next thing. That can get out of hand pretty quick. Plus, this card comes into play with counters, so it's kind of awkward because your opponents probably really won't want to get rid of this, because when they do, it's just going to come back again and just bring more counters into the world, and it's just going to get kind of crazy, right? So I really like this. I can't wait again to see kind of what else is in this deck and see how this plays well. Also, there was a Simic Growth deck that we got last year, so you may want to, if you already have that deck and you pick up this one this year, there might be some compatible cards in there. You might be able to create some sort of combination of decks between those two. Could be interesting. So I find it very creative and a very good card too. Next we have Saskia the Unyielding, and this is another one of the commanders. She's going to cost a black, a red, a green, and white legendary creature human soldier. 3/4, Vigilance Haste, and as this enters the battlefield, choose a player. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, it deals that much damage to the chosen player. So she's going to be part of the aggressive commander deck, which makes sense. This is the one that's lacking the blue. And obviously, very aggressive card. 3/4 Vigilance Haste, that alone is very aggressive. But the fact that it can really get past somebody's defenses, I find very intriguing, because again, it's another way to make sure you don't have board stalls. So let's say my whole plan is just build a wall of defense around me while everybody else fights each other, and then I just have to pick off that last person basically that wins. I mean, that's a strategy that sometimes you see in Commander. Well, this card just kind of messes up that strategy completely because now what I can do is choose that player with the defense I can't get past, attack somebody else, and take that extra damage to apply to them. So that really changes the whole scope of the game if one of these is in play, and I find that awesome. Like, that is a fantastic idea, and it really keeps those defensive kind of wall decks from just really stalling out the game. And it's funny because in some situations your opponents may be like, okay, you know what, attack me, I won't block because we need to deal with this threat over here, and you're really in kind of a win-win situation in that example. So great idea again for a commander. I'm very excited to see this in action. Next we have Tana the Blood Sower. This costs a green and red in 2. She's a legendary elf druid, 2/2 with trample, and when she deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 green sapling creature tokens. And this also has partner. So yet again, another card that's not only going to encourage you to be aggressive, but also rewards you for being aggressive. Now, when she does damage as a 2/2, that might be difficult without something to pump her, but you are in Gruul colors. I'm sure there's going to be tools to make her bigger out there, right? So if you can attack in maybe the 4/4 or 5/5 trample, get some damage across, all of a sudden you start getting some sapling tokens. Now you're going wide as well as tall. That could get kind of good, kind of quick, right, in the right deck. So again, I'm very anxious to see the deck list around cards like this, but this seems like it could be a lot of fun. Tymna the Weaver, 1 black, 1 white, and 1. Legendary creature, human cleric, lifelink, 2/2. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you may pay X life, where X is the number of opponents that were dealt damage this turn. If you do, draw X cards, and again, this is another partner. Here's the thing with this card. I think this is one of those cards that's kind of like, you know what, I gotta attack as many opponents as I can, so if anyone's shields are down, I'm getting in there because I want to draw cards. It's nothing personal. I just want to draw some cards. So it does kind of take the sting away sometimes of attacking somebody, because it's like, well, I just need to draw the cards. So, you know, sorry about this, but I got to kind of do it. So sometimes cards like this kind of work almost in a nice political way for you. But at the same time, again, you're getting just double benefit. You're attacking an opponent and you're getting to draw cards. Now, granted, you are paying life to do so, but I don't think that's a huge deal. She has lifelink to hopefully gain some of that life back, but she is only a 2/2. Again, there could be things that make her bigger over the course of the game, but even if that doesn't happen, she only costs 3. Maybe she dies in combat, you gain 2 life, you play her again, later on you gain 2 life. So there are some, at least small incremental life gain that you can get from her just in general, which will offset some of the payment for the card draw. But let's face it, the card draw is going to put you in a great board position anyway, so even if you do sacrifice some life for that, that's never a bad thing. So again, this is a card that's very interesting to me. I want to see how it plays, and I do want to again see what kind of cards are around her. Next we have Vile Smasher of the Fierce. 1 red, 1 black, and 1 legendary creature, Goblin Berserker. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, Vile Smasher of the Fierce deals damage equal to that spell's converted mana cost to an opponent chosen at random, and this has partner 2/3. Okay, so this has obviously got to be part of that Chaos deck, right? And I'm the most intrigued probably about that deck than all the other 4, because we kind of know what the other 4 are probably going to do, right? I mean, we're used to seeing aggro decks and growth decks and that type of thing, artifact decks, right? Like, but what's a chaos deck? And, you know, I was thinking yesterday, maybe it's a lot of like coin flips and stuff like that, but cards like this, I mean, this is awesome, right? Here's what I really like about it. Like, you cast your spell and you're like, hey, you know, my bad, I didn't know who was going to hit, you know, so it doesn't necessarily mess up some of your political resources either by randomly hitting an opponent. It's kind of like, you know, if I have an alliance with somebody and oops, I hit you for 4, but I didn't mean to, sort of thing. well, it doesn't necessarily mean now you're at war with that person. You know, you can play that out a little bit, but again, you're getting all the benefit. You're the one doing the damage, right? So I think this is another card that's a really cool psychological card, and then we've seen a few of them so far. But this one I think is really fun. I really want to play the Chaos deck. I think that's the one I'm really looking forward to seeing more of. Next card comes to us from a Japanese language spoiler. Loosely translated, we think it's Crystalline Crawler. Costs 4, artifact creature construct. It has Converge, which means when this enters the battlefield, we'll get a +1/+1 counter on it for each color mana spent to cast it. You can remove a +1/+1 counter from this, and it will add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. And you can tap it to get a +1/+1 counter put on it. And it's a 1/1. This is awesome for multicolor decks, right? And obviously we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but we knew they were going to design ways to fix your colors, and there's going to be a lot of things, I'm sure, like mana rocks and dual lands and so on and so forth. But I think we're going to see some creative stuff like this as well. And this is a very creative way to not only fix your mana, but also give you perhaps a decent creature too, a nice little blocker, a nice little beater if needed. What's nice about it is if you're stuck on colors, you can still play this. It only costs 4. It can be of any color. It's going to give you some counters on it, and at that point you can start taking those counters off to fix your color, get your spells down, maybe your spells that will help you fix colors in other ways like mana rocks or something like that, and kind of get you moving. At the same time, you can just start pumping this so that later on in the game you have yourself a decent sized creature, but more importantly, maybe you have yourself a mana battery too, because you can pull all the counters off at once and just get all this mana of any color put into your mana pool, and that could lead to a big payoff later in the game. So this is awesome. I really think that 4 or 5 color commander decks going forward are going to want this card in there. I think it does a lot of stuff besides fixing mana, but this has long game potential to perhaps even be a win condition in certain situations. So I really like this. Next, we have the first one of our reprints for the day. We're going to look at a few reprints here. The first one is Beacon of Unrest. Costs 2 black and 3. It's a sorcery. Put target artifact or creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, and then you get to shuffle this into its owner's library. This was part of a cycle from 5th Dawn, I believe it was. So this is going way back, but this card actually has been reprinted a whole bunch of times. It was in 10th edition, but then it's been in a lot of supplementary products. I think it's been in another commander deck in the past. It was, I think, Arch Enemy, I think it was in. But this is new art, and that's actually pretty interesting because this is telling us that we may see some old cards with new art. This is the first time we've seen that in this product, so that's pretty cool. As far as the card itself goes, yeah, it's a fine card. It's decent. It does hit any graveyard, not just your own, so that's kind of a nice benefit. And on top of that, it's not a cheap card. Like, you can pick these up usually like $2 to $4, so there's a little bit of value there, which is kind of nice too. Oath of Druids. This is an interesting inclusion. For those not familiar with it, it costs a green and 1. It's an enchantment. Bear with me. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player chooses target player who controls more creatures than he or she does and is his or her opponent. The first player may reveal cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals a creature card. If he or she does, that player puts that card onto the battlefield and all other cards revealed this way into his or her graveyard. Wow, that's a mouthful. Now, this was originally printed in Exodus. Again, it was part of a cycle, this being the most popular and probably most powerful of that cycle. I think it only saw one reprint as a Judge's promo. As far as value for this card goes, it's not super expensive, which is nice because it doesn't break the economy, but there's a little bit of value there. You can usually pick these up between, I think, like $5-7, something like that for an Oath. This, of course, is a key part of the Oath Vintage deck, which you may have seen, but it's also a great cube card and also a good choice for Commander, too. So this is a nice little inclusion, nice little surprise. I didn't know if we'd see something with this high of a power level, but nice to see it here. I think it's a pretty cool idea. Our next reprint is Hanna Ship's Navigator. It costs a blue, white, and 1, legendary creature, human artificer, 1/2, and if you pay a blue, white, and 1 and tap, return target artifact or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. That seems to be something the artifact deck is doing. It's pulling a lot of stuff out of the graveyard, I noticed. So I don't know, maybe there'll be some sort of kind of black element that's destroying the artifacts or sacrificing them, and then you can bring them back, do it again. So that could be interesting. This is a cool reprint too. Another card that's not cheap. This was originally from Invasion, I believe, and it only saw a reprint again as a Judge's promo. So just not a whole lot of copies out there of this. And this is the art from the Judges promo, which actually looks amazing. This is Treese Nielsen art. And the Judges promo is not cheap. Even the original version will still run you, I think, maybe like $5 or $6 for a copy of this. So again, not economy breaking, but with the really nice art on it, this is a real cool inclusion. And another reprint, Irose God of Victory. A white, a red, and 2. Legendary enchantment creature god. Indestructible. 7/4. As long as your devotion to red and white is less than 7, Irose isn't a creature. Creatures you control have menace. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. Now, out of all the Theros gods, this one and probably the Isn't one are the ones that did the best kind of after everything cycled out and the dust settled. This card does see play in Commander, sees play in cubes as well, and it's not cheap. It's got a price tag about $7 or $8 right now, so nice added value. I kind of assume this will be in the aggressive deck. Zedru, the Great-Hearted. This costs a blue, a white, a red, and 1. Legendary creature, Minotaur Monk, 2/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may gain X life and draw X cards, where X is the number of permanents you own that your opponents control. And you can pay Jeskai colors, and target opponent gains control of target permanent you control. This was originally printed in Commander, I want to say 2013. Don't quote me on that, but this was from one of the previous Commander products. This was the one that did the wedges, so this of course being Jeskai colors. Never saw another reprint, and it's actually a pretty popular Commander card to this day. If you go ahead and look up Zedru Commander decks, you'll definitely find a number of different deck lists out there. This is a pretty popular Commander, and since it has had a pretty limited run, it's not a cheap one. I think buying a single of this will run you somewhere between like $7, $8, $9, $10, somewhere in that ballpark. So it's, again, not super expensive where it's going to break the economy of this product, but it's nice added value, and it lets players who want to play with this card get another opportunity to do so, and I think that's pretty awesome. This card can be pretty spiky, but depending on how you play with it and what you combo with it, it doesn't necessarily have to be, so it's just a really fun card, I think. All right, next card comes to us from a French language spoiler, and if you're not familiar with Chromatic Lantern, I put down on the left side what it does, but it costs 3. It's an artifact. Lands you control have tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and you can also tap this to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. This was, I think, originally from Return to Ravnica, but this is just kind of one of those staple cards I think they're going to keep going back to whenever they want to color fix, and this is the perfect opportunity to color fix, right? Because we have 4 color decks, so this completely makes sense in probably all of these, maybe if not the majority of them. I think we'll see this card. All right, so those are the cards for today, and let me know in the comments below what you think so far. I'm actually very excited about it. I haven't seen a card yet that has been something that I haven't liked, quite honestly. The partner effects with Commander, I think, are a really cool idea. I know it changes the game a little bit, but I do think it opens it up to more combinations and more possibilities. So I do think it's a cool idea. I think they're really doing a good job so far. It's hard to say without seeing the full deck lists how excited or unexcited I would be about the product, about buying one. But what I've seen so far, it looks really incredible. So tomorrow we'll have more spoilers, no doubt. So we'll be back with another video and talk about the cards previewed. We'll see more on Thursday. My assumption is on Friday we'll get full deck lists. If that's the case, we'll start reviewing the decks as a whole at that point. If it doesn't happen Friday, then maybe it'll be Monday, but whenever that does happen, we'll start those videos. So, hey, as always, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks as always for watching. This video, like all my videos, was made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Even a donation of $1 helps me to keep growing this community and creating better quality content for all of you. Check out our Patreon page for exclusive giveaways and future goals for the channel. If you haven't yet had a chance to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the MTG news, spoilers, set reviews, product openings, or finance videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.